So the daughter was all upset because she was supposed to be the trustee. She was the one supposed to be overseeing all this money for her brother, and now the brother's taking all this money out at his girlfriend's direction, and they're just spending all this money down, and that's not what was supposed to happen. We had this plan, and we spent all this money on these trusts, so who's to blame? Hi, Jeff Mersachi, the Plain English Attorney, and welcome to the video. Today we are going to talk about an estate gone wrong and who's to blame. And we are at the wonderful historic Williamsburg, and in the background there you see the governor's palace, the seat of ultimate power, which really brings us to modern day. It becomes very easy to blame who we want to blame rather than who is actually to blame. This doesn't help when you can go on social media and YouTube and other locations and you end up with picking whatever outlet ends up saying what you want them to say rather than really digging deep. After all, if the roads in your town are really crappy, is it really the fault of the President of the United States? Or is it the fault of the town people who refuse to dedicate the money in order to make sure that the roads are handled properly? So you see where we have this potential problem. Here we're going to talk about who is responsible for a failed estate. Now, just as a bit of history, because we might as well while we're here, I was reading, and I'm still in the middle of a really good biography on Patrick Henry, champion of liberty, and the biographer really did a good deep dive into what things were going on at the time, and people weren't always railing against the king. They didn't think the king was the one who was at fault when things were going wrong with issues such as the Townsend duties and the tea tax and the Stamp Act and other things like that. What they were really looking at was Parliament. And so we had this setup where the king was the monarch in charge of the entire kingdom, but Parliament was the one passing the laws, raising revenue, and imposing taxes. But we also had the Virginia House of Burgesses. They were responsible for the local taxes inside the colony of Virginia. And Parliament was trying to tax internally inside Virginia. The people knew the difference. They weren't screaming and yelling against the king, at least not initially. It was Parliament they had a problem with. So we're going to explore a little bit about an estate situation and who exactly is to blame when something went wrong.
Gentlemen, government is dissolved. Fleets and armies come to our shores, clear evidence that a time of crisis is now at hand. At this time of crisis, therefore, all distinctions must now be thrown down. The distinction, I said, between Virginians, Pennsylvanians, New Yorkers, and New Englanders is no more. I am not a Virginian, I am an American.
All right, so here we are in Colonial Williamsburg with the courthouse right behind me. So we're going to talk about a few general concepts before we actually get into the scenario of the estate went wrong. So we got a couple of things to talk about. First, look, if you are an adult, you can put together your estate any way you want, but what you do and how you do it, and in particular how you title your assets and name beneficiaries, it has consequences. So the first thing to realize is if you pass on and you don't have any kind of trust, you have your assets titled in your own name, well, then they go into probate.
With the Estate Patch system, you can pick your own plan. This service of the Care Assistance Center, LLC, can provide U.S. adults with the estate documents they need without having to hire an attorney. If you want to handle these documents yourself, then our licensed document creation system can help you create your own documents, while our original courses and materials can help you maximize your plan and help maintain it. You can pick your own plan.
And probate will then distribute your estate according to state law. If you have a last will and testament, your assets still go into probate, but then they get distributed according to your will. Second thing, if you have a revocable living trust, or what we are sometimes calling a part of a freedom estate plan, you have your assets titled in your trust, or you have assets pay on death into your trust, they bypass that probate court system. And now it goes the way you want it to. If you think it's important for educational videos like this to get out there, then please help us out by subscribing to the channel. And now we have the third thing. There are things like beneficiary designations and joint assets with the right of survivorship. If you have beneficiaries named, if it's joint with the right of survivorship with someone else, your will and trust means nothing. It goes to those people automatically. It bypasses probate. It bypasses your trust and all the terms and conditions and all of the different contingencies, and it just goes to them. This becomes important when we're going to talk about this specific scenario. So here we are at the magazine. This is where they kept all of the gunpowder, the muskets, and the other munitions and weapons, and they kept explosives here as well. And that becomes important as in describing the scenario, because oh my gosh, was the daughter in this scenario explosive, and she was blaming everyone that she could. So what exactly was the scenario that we get set up here? Well, it was definitely more than 20 years ago. Mom and Dad came to me, put together a revocable living trust, and the son had issues. He was not good with money, and he always made bad choices in his life partners that he picked. So, all right, we wanted to protect the inheritance for the son. So we set up that revocable living trust, and we set up pour-over wills so that if anything ended up in probate, it went over to the trust, and therefore was protected. Flash forward maybe 15 years or more, and now suddenly we have another issue with the son, and we put together an irrevocable trust for him to hold the house plus the other half that Dad owned, and so it's going to secure that same issue. Go forward a few more years. All right, now suddenly they want to talk changes, but the husband and wife are in my office fighting because the dad wants to put the daughter in charge. Mom doesn't want that. She's got too many issues. She's just going to be vindictive against her brother. Doesn't want to do it. And surprisingly, they didn't want to talk about any of their accounts or assets. The father absolutely flatly refused, despite Mom saying, look, we really should talk. No, I don't want him knowing anything about what we have. All right. Year and a half ago, now suddenly Mom's passed on. Dad comes in, we're going to put my daughter in charge of everything, and here's how I want it to go. Make the changes to the trust and to the will. And I'm still not going to talk to you about our accounts and assets. Okay, so remember this when we come back to what we just talked about at the courthouse, which was beneficiary designations, joint with the right of survivorship, overrides a will and a trust, because we're going to see this estate fall apart, and we're going to go to another location and see who is the daughter going to blame.
Gunners! Make ready! Give! Fire! Gunfire! Cover!
All right, so we are here at the George Wythe House, which is the residence of one of the most prominent attorneys at the time in Colonial Williamsburg, and in fact worked with Patrick Henry and many other attorneys in the area who were in the House of Burgesses. And we're going to talk now about who actually is to blame for this whole estate blowing up, because here's exactly what happened. We had an IRA that ended up going directly to the daughter and the son. So wait a minute, what about these protective trusts for the son? What happened? Well, apparently the beneficiary designations listed the son and daughter directly. It wasn't in compliance with the actual plan. So the daughter was all upset because she was supposed to be the trustee. She was the one supposed to be overseeing all this money for her brother, and now the brother's taking all this money out at his girlfriend's direction, and they're just spending all this money down, and that's not what was supposed to happen. We had this plan and we spent all this money on these trusts. So who's to blame? Was it the government? No. The government had absolutely nothing to do with this. If Dad didn't do any type of plan, it would have been Dad's fault for not doing any type of plan, but then the government would have said, yeah, son and daughter get it equally. They're over 18, they get the money outright. But that's not what happened. He actually had a written plan. Was it the financial advisor's fault? Well, possibly, except, remember, in this particular case that we're talking about, the father didn't want to talk to the attorney, me, about anything dealing with any of his accounts, and he didn't want to disclose any information at all. Didn't want any kind of help. So for the financial advisor, he did exactly the same thing with the estate. Didn't want to talk about the plans, didn't know about anything that was in place, just, nope, not your problem. That's what my estate attorney's for. Okay, is it the attorney's fault when an estate like this blows up and what was supposed to happen didn't happen? Well, look, it could be an estate attorney's fault if they didn't draft the documents properly, or if they didn't provide advice on how to fund the trust when they were given information. Now, let me just tell you a little bit about what goes on with revocable trusts and attorneys, at least in my area in North Carolina, and from what I hear, many other jurisdictions. The attorney doesn't actually, quote, fund the trust. They don't change the ownership on accounts. They don't change all that other stuff, or if they do, they charge extra. Look, we charge a lot extra because what we work and concentrate on is making sure that your plan is put together the right way. And most of our clients, the vast majority of our clients, are okay making these transfers on their own, but we provide the advice based on what our clients give us in terms of information.
My apologies for the technical failure there. Apparently, the video just cut off about the last minute when I was exiting. So here is basically what I said that didn't get recorded. My point is that with the freedom of an estate plan that keeps the government out of your business also comes with the responsibility to make sure your plan is fully executed and maintained. With responsibility comes negative estate consequences if you don't fund your trust the right way. In this case, Dad not only didn't adult properly regarding his trust, but he actively undermined the people in his life who were trying to help him. And now, the daughter and son are the ones who are paying a price. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I also wanted to let you know that we will soon have another video out on why an annual review of your estate plan makes sense and what my law office does in these meetings with our clients so that you don't make the same mistakes that this gentleman did. And as I always tell my clients, please stay safe, plan ahead, and enjoy life, and whatever you do, make it a great day.